How do we take steps toward becoming a multicultural church in a predominantly white region?
I don't think every church should be multi-ethnic. I think every church should have a passion to reach its geographical location. And, you know, if you're in Compton, you're not going to be multi-ethnic. If you're in sections of North Dakota, you're probably not going to be multi-ethnic. But the driving thing should be, we want to reach all of wherever that place may be. And so what Dr. Corey Edwards says, the average community that a church sits in is 10 times more diverse than that church. And the average schools in the community that the church sits in is 20 times more diverse. So by and large...
Is that because the younger you go, the more diverse the country is?
You know, I'm not sure. She doesn't go. She's an Ohio State University professor. She'd kill me. Jesus-loving woman. But yeah, she didn't drill down into those details. But the point is, once again, the church is lagging.
Yeah, behind
significantly. So, but then we can press into, you know, if you really want to be a multi-ethnic church and the location lends itself to that, now we have to deal with leadership.
Yeah.
What does the leadership look like? Now we're getting to issues of power.
Yeah.
And this is a major, there's a recent NPR article that came out, and I hate it because it's true. Once a church becomes at least 50-50, whites begin to leave en masse. And the theory in the NPR article is power.
Wow.
So, you know, Bishop Omer and I are talking because Inglewood's gentrifying. Yeah. And it's this large black church, and Bishop Omer's going, where are the models of minority homogenous churches that have become multi-ethnic with an influx of whites who are now going to say, we are, instead of planting churches in a gentrifying community, we're actually going to find existing churches and follow black leadership. That's not there. That's not in the community. Last thing I'll say is read Bonhoeffer's Black Jesus. Yes. Phenomenal book written by Reggie Williams. Bonhoeffer, when he's 21, prodigy, graduates with his PhD, goes to Union. This is Harlem, 1930s. Union's a part of Columbia. He goes there. He would say, in hindsight, I wasn't a Christian, but I thought I was a Christian. And because I thought I was a Christian, I was trying out all these churches, white churches. He goes, but I didn't really hear the gospel and all of its glorious dimensions there. So he ends up joining the Abyssinian Baptist Church, which is a black church still in existence today, Harlem. You know what he learned is the phrase cheap grace? He didn't come up with that. He got it from his black pastor, Adam Clayton Powell.
Wow.
So he follows black leadership, teaches a Sunday school class there, befriends a guy named Albert. Albert turns him on to Negro spirituals, which he takes back with him. They go on a trip down to the Jim Crow South in the 1930s. Here's the point. Bonhoeffer says, I do not go back to Germany and stand up for the oppressed unless I first see the gospel to the oppressed at the Abyssinian Baptist Church. What changed him wasn't just reading a book, but it was immersing himself as a minority, following minority leadership that had a transformative impact on his life. That's a narrative most whites don't have.
Yeah.
Most whites do not immerse themselves as minorities to follow minority leadership. And could be a power thing.
Yeah.
So.
Gosh.
Sorry to bum you out.
No. Yeah.
That was one of those. I'm just going to set that out there for you.
Michelle, any thoughts as we close? You know, you and Imago have been doing this work, and in this city and right around the corner. You know, any thoughts? I mean, obviously the leadership one is, 110%.
Yeah, two quick things. One, a story of a woman who I spoke at a church last Christmas. It was a small gathering of women who just wanted somebody to come and speak to their women's group. So I said, all right, I'm in. I can't even remember the name of the community, but it was white.
With the H.
Yes, with the H. And these women were, I mean, they were awesome. And it was just a very traditional church. We made baskets and did all the things you do at women's gatherings and stuff. Fast forward, here we are now in September. I got an email from one of the women who was there. And she said she'd been watching everything that's been going on and during COVID and all of this unrest that's happening. And she says, my husband and I have found ourselves very blessed in this season. And what I would like to do is I would like to be able to give financially to some African-American organizations or some African-American people who are struggling, but I find I don't know any African-American people.
Wow. So
will you help me? And
I'd have been like, I'm struggling.
well, you know, I actually thought this is the most.
Brian's like, kid in college, we're both struggling.
I thought this is the most awesome woman in the whole world.
Yeah.
Because
so that wasn't offensive to you, or
no,
because I would be scared to ask.
And
a question
she also
like that.
asked. She said, "Do I call you Black or African American?" And I wrote her back an email and said, you know, this is African American, this is Black. You're safe if you call me Black. If anybody who looks like me, if you call us Black, then you're pretty much safe. But this is what you mean when you say African American. So I explained it to her. And then I, proceeded to give her a couple of organizations and a couple of families that were struggling and stuff. But it was the courage that she had. I met this woman, I met her for what, a minute, maybe? Mm-hmm. I spoke for, 30 minutes, maybe.
But she sat under your leadership in a very small way, but for a time.
And then I was gone. But she found my email address from the Imago Dei website, and she did this. And I thought, this woman, she is officially my hero in this season because she did this. And then I get a call from a friend of mine who runs a nonprofit, and this woman donated like a 5-figure donation to his organization and told him it's because I talked to Michelle Jones. And I thought to myself, she clearly doesn't have any African-American people in her, immediate circle or anybody that she knows, but this is what it means to be the church, right?
Wow.
It's I'm not there, but I'm there. And she's not here, but she's here. And so if we do that, that makes all the difference in the world. You think your experience might not be my experience. My experience might not be yours, but we all add up to something. And until and unless we realize that and remember that, we're going to struggle. At Imago, we are intentionally leaning into, let's see what it looks like. To actually lean into the importance of diversity and all of this stuff. And most of you all know that we have that mural up on the outside of our church. I don't know if I told you about that, Brian. But somebody actually
came. It's not drive-by, so it'd be...
Yeah, you got to drive by. Somebody tagged our building with Black Lives Matter. And it became a discussion on our staff bulletin board. And somebody said, it'd be really cool if we could just make that into a piece of art. And so somebody said, yeah, we should ask Heidi, because Heidi's an artist. And so I'm thinking, well, first we got to ask Rick, and then we got to ask Heidi. If Heidi's down, and Rick's down, then why not? We can do this, right? So I call Rick. Rick says, yeah. And he doesn't even hesitate. He says, yes, it can be a gift of truth to our community
Wow.
and a memorial.
Wow.
And then I call Heidi. Heidi says, I would love to do that. So we have this instead of painting over Black Lives Matter, instead of painting over the thing that's what we typically do when the building gets tagged.
Right.
It is now this amazing piece of art, but it has all of the names of people who have died either by police brutality or white supremacy, or, just as many as we could put on the wall, because there are so many more names than there are bricks on that wall to be able to put the names. But the last thing that I will say is that one of the parents at our church has 2 kids, and she brought those kids. They painted names on the wall. They were encouraged to, and they did, go home, look up the stories of the people who were attached to those names.
Yeah.
And her son said to her, "How come there are so many names on that wall?" And his mother had to tell him, she said, "I had a hard, good conversation with my kids about the fact that there are so many more names than there are bricks on that wall." And she just talked to them, and they looked at the story. And what happened, what I think we have to remember in all of this, is that there are human beings attached to our behavior, human beings attached to the change that happens in our minds, human beings attached to our learning, with Colin's friend too. There are human beings attached to those deaths. There are mothers and sons and fathers, and there are people attached to that. So when I had somebody come up to me while I was helping paint that wall and started to talk about looting and destruction of property and things, and I just directed their attention to the wall, and I said, "Read the names, just read the names, just read the names." And you don't have to align yourself with Black Lives Matter to say Black Lives Matter.
Right.
They matter. And somebody should have said it in 1619.
Yes.
Somebody should have said it during Jim Crow. Somebody should have said it, and that's all that was being said during the Civil Rights Movement. And if we're willing as the church to tell the truth, to engage in some, Vergangenheit Bewältigung, and come to grips with the truth, I think it makes all the difference in the world.
Well, thank you so much.